So, good evening to everyone, and we shall be discussing with few of the topics which I am supposed to speak for today. And before I start with my presentation, I would like to acknowledge to Dr. Chinmay Pondekar for giving me this opportunity to share few of my ideas with you people, and go on with a few of the ideologies which I am taking into my clinical practice, especially with dealing with the cases of malignancies, especially with that of the GAT. We'll be pertaining specifically on the upper part of the GAT today, so that we can have an interaction related to the topics related to the upper part of the GATs and its management. Salutation to the God, the Lord Shiva, who is the person who is very much related for the science to evolve, the Rasa Shastra. The Ugra Rupa of the Shiva makes ups and downs in the life, because he is also called as a Kala. He is a person for the considered for the death of the person to take away the life. So Shrishti Layan Karta. So on that grounds, here it is specifically for removing the health, but appraisal of the same person with the help of the Rasadravyas, because Rasa Shastra is also called as a Shiva Shastra. It is derived from the Shiva Tattva. So appraisals from the Rasa Shastra could be beneficial for warding off the death to the extent possible. That is the reason why, through the means of Rasa Shastra, people have wandered and have invested their knowledge, time, and life for the name of Dehavada and Dhatuvada, which is very much evident for the people of Ayurveda from our ancient texts. So, with this grounds, we shall try to go with the actual steps of the rasa practice, especially in the conditions of the malignancies. The very first thing which I always emphasize, most of them, is don't promise your patient. Whether you have the cases reported with upper GIT or either way, it's in a primary state, in the first stage, second state, or in the fourth stage, whatever the status is about. Don't promise your patient. Always confidence to the patient, but not to the patient party. To the patient party, you reveal the facts. Possibly you reveal the things which are more deteriorating and also the negative attitudes. But to the patient, you need to gain the positive attitude, try to give him more details, and try to see you can make the things more better. So that could be a better attitude to gain the confidence of the patient, because without the patient's confidence, whatever medicines you give to him will work absolutely to the zero extent. So you should always have this particular attitude and try to go with the scenario. Ayurveda is a very beautiful science wherein it has been dealt with so many factors. It has explained about the drugs which are related to herbs, minerals, metals, poisons, many things. It is having animal products, it is having herbal product, it is having metals, minerals, so many factors. All these things are a parts of nature, and these things have got their therapies adopted, because Rasa Shastra is one such science wherein the textbooks have praised, stating like Yatha Loke or Yatha Brahmande Tata Pinde. So whatever is there in the natural earth crust, the same thing is even in the inside the human body. So you need to repair it or replace it. That is how the treatment goes with Ayurveda. So when we speak about, there are many factors which can be represented in the form of malignancies in Ayurveda, how to deal or how to tag with the terminology called as malignancies. It could be named as Gulma, it could be named as Arbuda, it could be named as the malignancies can be presented in a patient coming to you in a clinics in the form of Jwara. It could be in the form of Atisara. It could be in the form of Sandivata. It could be in either way. It could be in the form of Kamala. So it's not possible to tag only one name for malignancies in Ayurveda. It is always challenging to see that what best we can do to such patients, what best we can do to the people who are being suffering. But anyway, to have a guidelines, like we need some guidelines from the textbook always, because they become the backbone for the treatment protocols. So let not consider all the disorders of high chikitsa under the name of gulma or the malignancies, for instance. Let us try to consider only the gulma and try to understand its concept behind it and try to adopt it in all sorts of patients. Gulma is specifically related to the malignancies of the abdomen, basically. The rest of the things are something like it could be arbuda, it should be granthi, it could be something like apachi, it could be something else, galaganda, anything could be malignancies. But when we see through the Chikitsa Sutra, which has been explained by our acharyas, it is really interesting and it will give us a lots of hints of the practice of the malignancies. One thing, I don't want to go with the Chikitsa Sutras because they are directly from the textbook and you people can directly refer it from the textbook. I would like to have some points which you can really highlight whenever we are treating with the cases of malignancies. In case if you are able to take the guidelines of Gulma as a protocol for us, the treatment protocol which is given for Vataja Gulma, that is fine because Snehana, Svedana, Gritapana, Basti, everything is being mentioned, which is primarily to remove the vitiation of the doshas and affected Vata there and try to treat with the patients. But it is more interesting when we go across with the next stages or the next types of malignancies or the gulmas which has been explained in the text. As such, you can see with the Pittaja Gulma Chikitsa Sutra, Acharya has explained us a certain treatment protocols. These are the treatment protocols or the Chikitsa Sutras which has been explained from the textbook. You can refer Charaka Samhita, you can refer to Sushruta Samhita. There are many things which have been compiled there. You can see the way how it is being treated with. I will say why Rakta Mokshana, why Shamana Yogas, why Ashwasana. Ashwasana is specifically with the Manovyadis, which is related to the Vata. Why here specifically we have the Upanaha Sveda here? Why we have the Vranaropana Krama? Many things are highlighting very specific. I'll say Gritapana, Tiktakshira, Virechana, Niruha Basti, Ashwasana. Many of the things are also targeting towards the Vata. But still, when we go further to the next slide, we'll understand even in Kafaja Kulma, Snehana is indicated, Virechana is indicated, Sarpi Basti is also indicated, which are more targeting again towards Vata. So here Acharya wants to hint as a stating like, irrespective of the doshas, try to always have a focus or an eye on Vata. At an outsider, try to keep that your treatment protocols are specific towards Vata. It doesn't mean that I want to neglect Pitta and Kapha. We have to consider whatever the doshic vitiation we observe in the patient. But as a background, to try to always maintain that you control Vata. When I speak about the issues, I do remember about what happened in the classes when we were dealing with the Kriya Kala. You have the Kriya Kalas explained as the 6 stages, Shad Kriya Kalas. Chaya and Prakopavastha is said to be Sthanika Vruddhi. Whereas Chaya, Prakopa and Prasara state, what you have. This is most interesting phenomena. The Prasara state is wherein the doshas move from the Koshtashrita to the Shakashrita, wherein they move, the vitiated doshas move from the Koshta to the Shaka and settle there. So who is carrying these vitiated doshas from the Koshta to the Shaka or wherever they are traveling? Prasara is a state of movement of the Kriya Kala. Who is making them to move? It is again Vata. Because Pitta Pangum, Kapha Pangum, Pangave Maladatavaha, Vayunetra Nicha Gachanti Tatra Gachanti Megavata. So it is again the Vata which is interacting with the Kapha and Pitta, taking it from the stage of Prasaravastha to the vitiated doshas elsewhere to the various shrotasas of the body and making it into deep-rootedness. Wherein it becomes a Bahudoshavastha, it becomes a Dvandvaja or Sannipataja Roga, it could become deep-rootedness, Bahudoshavastha, multiple shrotasas involvement. It enters into the next stage of Kriya Kala like the Vektha and Vedhavastha as well, in case if it's not been arrested now. And in malignancy cases, it is happening like throughout the process, there is a moment, there is a new disease. How do you say like there is a new disease? I will say a person is suffering from a CA of esophagus. Do you mean like the CA of the esophagus is stagnant there? Or will it start to move elsewhere? Definitely it has to move through the lymph nodes or through the direct contact, or either the way it starts to move to the other srotases or to the different organelles of the body. How does it move? It is again the stage of prasara, again the help of vata, which is making it to move. Always there is a vicious cycle of the kriya kala going on in malignancies. There is a spread of a disease. Once it goes to some other area, say for example liver, say for example brain, say for example lungs, it goes elsewhere, it creates a new samprapti. Again there is a new disease there. Might be it's in the form of a shwasa, might be it's in the form of a kasa, might be it's in different stage, might be in the name, in a tag of a different disease, but the basic outline is malignancy. So to arrest this process, to see that somehow you have to arrest this genesis of malignancy from one area to the another area, or the same malignancy spreading from or growing from in that area to the next area, you need to arrest vata. And try to say that you select such drugs, such metals and minerals which can surely hold vata there. What are those drugs? What could be those drugs? It should be something like the drug which can really hamper or control the vata. It could be something like which can arrest the whole process of metastasis, the whole process of the disease genesis, the whole prognosis of the disease has been altered once you control vata. So the whole culprit here, so this is what I understand by the Chikitsa Sutras, by hinting from the various acharyas from the Gulma from the Gulma treatment protocols. So what we need to do there, we need to consider one thing, Vyadhi Pratyanikam, we need to go for Anulomanam Pachanam as per the textbook. So always try to see that you need to adopt these two things for sure in your patient. The patient will say, I don't have any problem with my apana pravruti, I have a normal bowel movement, but still give him some Anulomana Dravya. Always you see that his body gets detoxified. Always you see like the patient might say, I'm comfortable, I'm emptying my bowel very comfortably, but still give him Anulomana. This is Vyadhi Pratyanikam, what Acharya has been claiming there. Anulomanam and Pachanam. Why Pachanam? Sarvan Rogo Mandagno. Always try to see his gastric fire is being maintained, especially in the disorders of esophagus and stomach. You need to consider like Deepana Pachana concept, the concept of Jataragni. The patient will land up into anorexia, the patient will land up into loss of appetite, and he is not ready to take even small quantities of medicine as well. Then it becomes a huge problem to him. Even he doesn't take medicine, the treatment becomes further challenging. Then as it is, there is a Bahudosha Avastha. Treating or challenging such cases is a highly complicated technique. Plus he doesn't have an appetite, then it becomes more challenging. Of course, as I claimed about the concept of Sarvan Rogo Mandagno, try to arrest his ama. Don't allow the ama to happen. Don't allow the Agni to fall down. So try to see that Anulomanam is proper, Pachanam is proper. In all the patients, even though they said like they're normal, try to see that you maintain these two things always in an individual. The next protocol could be something like Rasayanam, Ayushyam, etc. But still try to focus on these two things. With this particular protocol, Mukhya Aushadhis could be chosen as Ballataka, Lashuna, Erandatailam, Tamrabhasma, Shilajatu, Kankushta, Kampilaka, Navasadara, Kantaloha, Naga, Vaidurya, Shankha. Whereas Acharya Chakradatta has claimed about the Ketaki Kshara, Palasha Kshara and Kshara Jala. Always, even in the modern science, it is claimed like alkaline media is very good for the growth arresting of the malignant cells. So in case if you have any of the Ksharas or the Kshara Jala can give, I'm from the department of Rasa Shastra, my choice could be something like I try to give to the patient with small quantities of Tankana because it is called as Kshara Raja. So try to include Tankana into your patient's protocol, either of the treatment modalities, or ask him to take small amount of Sudha Jala or Sudha lime. Ask him to take very small concentrations mixed in his diet. and try to maintain to keep him on more alkaline levels. By keeping him on more alkaline levels, the multiplication of the malignant cells is being arrested. But anyway, you have the Kshara Prayoga as per the Chakradatta's opinion. So those things are also can be carried out. There are specific treatment modalities for the Vataja, Pittaja and Kaphaja Gulmas. But I will say these are again a general outlines. It's not like we want to give only these drugs. It could be one of the outline, because most of the times I have observed like the major protocol of the patients or someone who has already been undergone with surgery, they have undergone with chemotherapies, radiations, and they take Ayurveda as a last resort. So by this time the patient would have been in the stage of Vyaktavastha and Vedavastha. He is in stage of complications, and he is in stage of Tridoshaja or Sannipataja. So wherein you have the multiple involvement or deep rootedness of the doshas. So on that grounds, we specifically need about the Sannipataja Gulma. So based on that, you try to mix up with the doshas, whatever you find in the patient, try to give it as a combination and try to treat the Sannipataja Gulma. So keep in note, the Varunadikwata with the Kshira is being indicated as the Sannipataja Gulma as per the textbook. So based on these grounds, most of my treatments are with Varunadikwata as an Anupanam, considering Sannipataja condition in the patient. So this is an important phenomenon to maintain these things as Anupana, because Anupana becomes an important source of the target drug delivery system when you're dealing with the Tophrosophthis. Panchakarma Upachara, of course, Panchakarma Upachara, or many times I find it's much limited, just because of the reason like you have the doshas which are sthabita, they are stagnant elsewhere. Say for example, the person is suffering from malignancy of a bone which is in a wrist joint. You cannot expect the vitiated doshas to travel and come to the costa. So when you are unable to get the vitiated doshas from the Shakashrita to the Kostashrita, there is a limitation of the Panchakarma practice. Of course, it could be beneficial or parallel line of management. It could be adopted with that of the Viruchana, Niruhabasti, Anuvasana, Anulomana, Rakta Mokshana, along with the Bahya Shamanopachara like the Snehana, Svedana and all. So it could be definitely be taken as supportive and as per the patient's concern in respect to the doshic vitiation what the patient is suffering from. Another withdrawal what I have with the Panchakarma practice is Samyak Vamana or Virechana Lakshanas is Durbhalavastha. The patient who comes to us is already in a stage of Durbhalavastha. So by administering Vamana and Virechana to those patients who are already Durbhala might further deteriorate the patient's condition. But anyway, I'm not saying like Panchakarma is contraindicated. I'm just saying like you can have a watch, assess the condition of the dosha doshas and try to protocol yourself with that of the Panchakarma in any of such patients. But I do practice with very less amount of Panchakarma involvement in such patients of malignancies. Might be it's in the Bahya Shamanopachara. I go for Snehana, Svedana and all, but not for Vamana and Virechana in most of the cases. Instead, I prefer to go for Anulomana or any of such things which can be done at the OPD level. So diets and for the cancer patients is really very important. Patya Palana should always be done. Try to advise him as per the disease he is suffering from. Whether it is Atisara, whether it is Jwara, whether it is Gulma or Arbuda, Galashundika, whatever. So based on that, try to see that you select the Patya. Also, you try to analyze the patient's Prakruti as well and try to frame the diets for the patient. But most of the times, the recent researchers have claimed vitamin B17 as the most important part of the cancer management. What are vitamin B17? All these berries, what you are seeing, the gooseberry, raspberry, strawberry, blackberry, all these berries, whatever you have, are having vitamin B17, which is very much essential for the people suffering from the malignancies. So on that grounds, in case if you are interested on analyzing the things on vitamin B17, you can go for the management of the Patya and ask the patient to go with the most of the berries, which is as per the support you in respect to the Patya concept, and also as per the disease in Ayurveda. Necessity of treating specifically Vata. Why we need to give so much of importance for Vata? Acharya in Madhukosha commentary has given When Vata has been involved in framing a disease, then it causes Atibalatvat, Ashukaritvat, Garyastvat Vikharanam, Dushadhyatvat, Asheva Atyekaratvat, and Vishishta Chikitsatvat. So it is Atibala, so you need some strong drug which can arrest the condition very quickly. And it should be having Ashukari. It should act quickly because Vata is very quick in its disease prognosis. So try to say that some drug which can act so quickly. So don't you think the definition of Rasaushadis is very much ideal when you keep the concept of Vata aside on the left hand side and right hand side and try to analyze it? What did Rasa Shastra speaks about? अल्पमात्रस्य उपयोगित्वात् अरुचेर अप्रसंगत्वात् क्षिप्रमारोग्यदायित्वात् औषधेभ्यधिपूरसः. So when it is Ashukaritvat and Atibalatvat, there it has been mentioned as Kshipramarogyadahitvat. So those are the set of medicines which can cure the condition or control the conditions very quickly. Garyastvat Vikaranam, even for this, Dusadhyatvat. Very seldom you see this term called as Dusadhya and Asadhya in the textbooks of Rasa Shastra. It's not alone the drugs which you study from the textbook of Rasa Shastra. Try to read the formulations. Possibly none of the formulation is being explained as even we're giving this, it is Asadhya. You don't find those terms called as Asadhya and Dusadhya in the textbooks of Rasa Shastra. Instead, you find many of the formulations wherein the Acharya has explained, like even in the Dusadhya and Asadhya condition, by giving this particular formulation, it can cure the patient condition. So those praises you can find in the Falashruti, but never you find any condition which is Dusadhya or Asadhya. So this is importance of Rasa Shastra. Asheva Atyekaritvat, you have tremendous drugs like that of Hemagarbha and all, which can be used as Ashu and Atyaya Chikitsa. Vishishta Chikitsatvat. Ayurveda Rasa Shastra is considered as Vishishta Chikitsa, which has been very well explained by the textbook. Here is the references from the Rasaratna Samuchaya. So, Kshipram Arogyadayitvat and Aushadebhyadhikorasah, the best form of the treatment modalities. And of course, some of the Rasaushadis which is explained by Ashtanga Sangraha Uttara Tantra as Durbhalavastha, it need to be prescribed. Like Shilajatuk, Shaudra, Vidanga, Sarpi, Loha, Abhaya, Parada, Tapya could be prescribed for the patient because he is something like deteriorating day by day. So try to increase his potency and life by administering these drugs. So various forms of Rasaushadis which can be given for any of these conditions, like either it's in the Murchavastha or in the form of Rasabhasma, or either of the conditions we can give. So what are few of the formulations which I take into my clinical practice? There are more than 1 lakh prescriptions in the whole of Rasa Shastra. When you compile from the various textbooks, we have nearly 600 textbooks related to Rasa Shastra alone. Among that, very few are the one which I extensively used in the cases of malignancies. Which are those? One thing is a Tithailam. This is nothing but the Kupilutailam. Kupilutailam is very specifically being used in the conditions for the pain management, because many times you have pain as the most disturbing feature in the cases of malignancies. So this is primarily a method of preparation called as a Tithailam, which can be used in the patients who are suffering from severe pain. Of course, I do use it even in musculoskeletal pains, but still this is one such a preparation called as Kupilutailam. Sarveshwara Parpati is another preparation which I extensively used in the cases, especially with that of CA, esophagus, stomach and intestines. Because wherever you have the tendency like an abscess formation or a fistula formation or a condition of the spread of the illness through the lymph nodes, to arrest all those conditions, the Sarveshwara Parpati is one of the ideal drug. The center portion, what you can see, the black flakes, is the Sarveshwara Parpati, is worth praising. So before I administer the drug, I do offer the puja to the drug and then it is being given to the patient or dispensed to the patient. So these drugs are said to be praiseworthy. This is from the reference of Rasaratna Samuchaya, Antavidrude Adhikara, Sarveshwara Parpati. Loha Garbha Potali, the center portion, the Lingakara, what you see in the center is the Loha Garbha Potali. So this is one such medicine which is extensively used in disorders related to the Rasa and Raktava Shrotas. Whenever you have the malignancy or disorders which are chronic or where it is deteriorating the person, then the jivana adhara of the person is the blood, because you have a reference called as wherein the attributes of the dhatus like rasa rakta mamsa meta, you have prenanam jivanam lepo sneho dharana purnehi garbhodbhadash. So these are the prime functions of the each dhatu. So when you want the prenana jivan of an individual, try to see that you always secure the rasa and raktava shrotas. Don't allow these two shrotas to deteriorate at any cost. Then the prenana of the body and the jivan of the body is being well maintained. So for assuring these two qualities, you need to give him the loha garbha potali. So by giving loha garbha potali, you are addressing two shrotasas primarily, that is the rasava shrotas and raktava shrotas. You want any of the disease like the malignancies not to spread from one shrotas to the another shrotas, then you need to prescribe them with that of the loha garbha potali. You need to prescribe them with that of the loha garbha potali. Then it happens like you can definitely make the condition more convenient and try to see that you can address the situation in a better way. So these are the textual references of loha garbha potali. So, but I do use it in most of the rasa and raktava shrota vyadis. The next one is about the malla garbha potali. Very specifically, this can be utilized in the various clinical conditions whenever you have the clinical presentations of suffering from the vata and kaphaja. Whenever you have the involvement of vata and kapha in such any of such malignancies, then we try to go with the involvement or the administration of the malla garbha. Or many times you have the clinical conditions wherever you have the involvement of the lungs, which is showing the lymph nodes involved there, and it is showing the pressure effect on the esophagus or the stomach, which is making the person more deteriorated. So in such clinical conditions, wherever you have the conditions being more aggressive and it is been making the condition more deteriorated, involvement of the lungs, the lymph nodes, and also the stomach or the esophagus. In those conditions, we are supposed to prescribe them with that of malla garbha potali. Similarly, it is the tala garbha and shila garbha. With the concentrations of haratala, you can go for the taratama bhavas of the doshik visheshan in an individual and try to prescribe them. This is the textual reference of malla garbha potali. Tamra garbha is one such thing which is given in the conditions wherever you got a cicatrization, keratinization, a sort of sclerotic change, chronicity, fibrotic changes of the tissues, chronicity of the illnesses. As you see in case of adenocarcinomas, you can see in case of CA of the esophagus, CA of the stomach, in adenocarcinomas, where you find a sort of a fibrous cauliflower-like growths. So in those conditions, tamra garbha is a drug of choice. Vata kaphaja condition, again, wherein you can prescribe with that of the tamra garbha. Also, you have many conditions like achalasia cardia. You have the conditions as that of stricture esophagus. You have some esophageal varices. You have the conditions like that of GERD or reflux esophagitis like presentations in such malignancies. So in all those conditions, wherever you have this presentation, try to administer them with the tamra garbha. Possibly within 1 or 2 days, the patient will respond. In all those strictures which is formed because of the malignancies, reflux esophagitis, the os, the stricture between the esophagus and the gastrium, it is being affected because of the malignant growths. Then you have the reflux esophagitis observed in the patient. In those conditions, wherein you have lots of deterioration in the patient condition. So in all these conditions, try to administer them with that of tamra garbha, which would be very beneficial. These are the textual references, what you have. Rajata garbha, specifically indicated wherein you have the inflammatory pathology. It's a recent onset of malignancy wherein you have the inflammation. It's very active because inflammation is a sign of the body to fight against the disease. So the first sign of fighting is inflammation. So this inflammatory pathology is also to be controlled or arrested, or I would like to recommend this in all the conditions wherever you have the involvement of the Udakava Shrotas, wherever you have the edemas, wherever you have the conditions wherein it is showing the inflammatory signs. In all those conditions, I am prescribing them with the of Rajata Garbha Potali. These are the textual references for the Rajata Garbha. You can refer it from the textbook directly. Vishagarbha, very extensively used drug in the clinical practice, especially in the malignancies, wherein this is one such a drug which can control the metastasis very actively. So you have a patient with CA esophagus or CA stomach, the spread is many times very fast, and you want to arrest the spread, especially in the conditions like you can see with that of adenocarcinomas. In case if it is squamous cell carcinoma, the spread is usually very less. You don't have the spread there. Metastasis is comparatively low. But whereas in conditions like that of adenocarcinomas, the spread is very fast. So you want to arrest the spread. So in conditions of adenocarcinoma, don't allow the stages to go ahead. Like don't allow it to go into the state of active metastasis. Instead, try to prescribe the Vishagarbha initially and try to see that you can arrest the condition as early as possible. These are the textual indications. Tridhatu Garbha is specifically given in Tridoshaja conditions. Whenever you have the Tridoshas being involved very significantly, whenever you have the clinical conditions wherein all the Tridoshas are affecting, or it has deteriorated the patient drastically, in all those conditions we are supposed to prescribe them with the Tridosha the Tridhatu Garbha. These are the textual references. You can make it into various sizes and forms. I do have potalis which are of 1 gram. I have certain potalis which have single potali is 1